Hello. Huh, it's not sure. Oh, no one's here. That's interesting. Did I do something wrong? It's not possible. Hmm. Well, it's time to go full boomer and wonder why it's not showing me anyone on this feed. Do, 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 do. Okay, some of you are here. Now it's all blurry. This is going to be a long day. I can tell already. I'm just going to give people a second to get in here. Settings. People a second to get in here. Oh, and the mic's delayed. Settings. There we go. Hope everyone's having a. Why am I all blurry as hell? Look at this shit. I should be back in the Soviet Union. Let's try fixing this mic, this camera, excuse me. What could I do? There we go. Hey, not too shabby. A lot of stuff I want to talk to you guys about. Hope you're having a fun, happy Saturday. My hair's a little crazy because last night was the first time, some of you may have heard this. Some of you may have heard this. I have sleep apnea because I'm a disgustingly fat blob of a man. And I got the machine, and last night was the first night I slept with the machine. So I'm very excited to see myself returning back to some semblance of normalcy and humanity. So I want to talk a bit about, I guess we'll give people like 5 minutes to get here. Talk about the Bret Weinstein interview I just did, which was so much fun. Well, here's a good question. Will Yarvin or Bap ever be on Rogan? Well, Bap doesn't show his face. So that might be a little tough, although I don't want to say sure. I'm confident that if Rogan extended him the invitation, he would appear. Curtis, I'm trying to imagine how the conversation would go because Curtis is obviously a big monologuer and Rogan is very much a dialogue-y show. But Curtis is also very quick on his feet. I've hung out with him many times. The conversation can go anywhere and he's fine with it. So I wonder how that would go. I don't know that they would. I feel like they are not complementary personality conversational types. I think it would be. I think a lot of what Curtis is saying, Rogan would not be having. So that's interesting. Have you done your? Oh God, have you done your deep dives yet into fake nukes? What Sean's referring to is I had Kurt Metzger on the live show, the first live episode I ever did of You're Welcome. And one of the great questions from the locals community, malice.locals.com, people want to join. So people in the community get to send in questions for all the guests. And one of the questions was, like, what's the conspiracy theory that is like a bridge too far for you? And the one, and he'd only heard it recently from Eddie Bravo, of course, was nukes aren't real. And it was fascinating because I was talking about this a bit with Bret as well, sit down and think, okay, instead of being like, that's crazy, what would need to be true for that to be a fact? And it's always fun because, some of you guys know me from my polls on Twitter where I'll have two difficult choices. Dumb people don't like working out their brain. So if you ask them which is more likely to be real, Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster, they'd be like, oh my God, that's so stupid. They're both ridiculous. Fine. But they're not both biologically, zoologically, ecologically equally likely to be real. So it's the kind of thing. It's kind of funny, like which would be crazier, flat Earth or nukes aren't real, or this. I love questions like that, but a lot of people really don't because it upsets them, and it's also for them. Like, what's the point? So it's really kind of, that's a good question, Sean. Let me see. So I'll give people 5 more minutes. Then we start talking about Bret. So my next book, by the way, for those of you who are interested, we are going to drop it June. Is the Monday the 9th? Is the Monday the 9th? June 9th. I'm going to launch it on Timcast, and we're going to try to see if we can get it to #1 on Amazon live and make history. And I don't think it's going to be that hard at that hour to get enough people to buy a book that they would enjoy anyway to get me to #1 on Amazon. So it'll be a fun little internet milestone that I'm excited to hopefully launch and take part in. And you'll see what it is in the very near future. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, we got like 300 people here. Let's talk a bit about the Bret episode. I love Bret. He's so interesting to talk to. I was gonna say that's my favorite type of podcast, but that's not really true. Like whatever, I like them differently in different ways, different types of appearances. But the specific Bret types are ones that I enjoy a lot, by which I mean specifically someone who is bright, intellectually curious, and comfortable on screen, thinking things through and questioning themselves. I think a lot of people in this space don't like to be challenged, intellectually challenged. I don't mean confrontationally. And they don't like to seem like they don't know what they're talking about, which is really, I think, incorrect. Because if I'm talking to a smart person and I can watch like how on high school tests for some math class, the teacher tell you do your work so she could see your thought process. So even if you got the answer wrong, she could tell, okay, does this guy mostly get it? And it's going to be a guy who mostly gets it. Or were they way off from the beginning? Like maybe they just added 2 numbers wrong at the very end, but their process was correct. So watching a smart person's brain try to grapple with new ideas is something that is really fun. And it's also really fun when it's something where it's my wheelhouse and not his. And I'm like I know this space very, very, very well. Bret isn't like living in this space. So when he starts saying like 101 things, I know, okay, I'm gonna have fun here, and a little bit at his expense. And I think a big reason why so many people enjoy his show is there isn't this chip on his shoulder. He has his point of view, but he's willing to, like he's a scientist, to like, all right, let's think this out. What is what you're saying look like? And a lot of people, especially in the political space, they have their very rigid framework, and anything outside this framework is stupid and dumb and outgroup. And why am I wasting my time talking about it? Blah, 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 blah. So the first half of the interview was us talking about this movie, Follow the Silenced, that he had taken part in, which was, I still haven't watched it. Oof. For those of you who don't know, it's about people who had got the jab and were their family members, got very deleterious consequences. And as a result of this, all sorts of bad things started happening, but also them being gaslit, told it's not possible, people losing their kids, women, losing children they were carrying, and just the cruelty on top of the harm that they were caused is really something quite upsetting. Bret said like this is like the 3rd time he's seen it and been in tears. And I told him my thoughts don't turn toward tears. They turn toward like a Luigi kind of situation for these people. Like not for the victims, of course, but for the perpetrators. I don't understand why that isn't more commonly the case. And I'm hardly some badass. So yeah. The second half of the interview, I was hoping or thinking we were going to talk about, the white pill, which Bret had started reading or listening to at least, which he hadn't got to, which is fine. But we, of course, started talking about anarchism. And it was really fun because at a certain moment, I thought I had him, right? Because we were talking about the nature of government, what's a good government, what's a bad government. And he was being very, he wasn't trying to play defense. He played his cards on the table, having an honest discussion. And he freely admitted, from his perspective, that every government on earth right now is malignant. But it was interesting because later, when I asked him if he thought eBay was a government, I thought, okay, he said yes. And I don't think he thought this. I know he hasn't thought this through, because he was making the point that if any organization has rules, that it's de facto a government, or I don't know if he'd say de facto, but it's a government of some kind. But I don't think he would say that every organization on earth that has rules is malignant. I would be very hesitant to say that he would agree with that. So there is a little bit of contradiction there in two things he said. I'm having him on my show next week. We're going to follow up. I think it's going to be, I'm really excited for this conversation. And it's just interesting because his point was, if the rules are emergent, it's not a government. So like a band is not a government, but eBay is. And it seems to me a very weird distinction. But by my point, which I don't think is a very insightful or controversial one, is that any grouping of humans is going to evolve some rules. And bands may not have explicit rules, but there are certain implicit rules that everyone follows, because the band has to be harmonious. You have to all do certain things in the same way toward the same goal. Everyone knows their place. And I think band conflicts come when people don't know their place, but that's when you sit down and you have those conversations. So it was an interesting conversation we had for sure. So what I thought would be fun, I've never done this before, is I don't like usually reading internet comments because they're so fatuous. And there's a certain type of mindset that thinks if they can't wrap their head around it, it's inherently stupid and crazy. And they're very proud of this. This makes no sense to me. What an idiot. It's like, if things don't make sense to you, it could be two things. If a thing doesn't make sense, it could be you. It could be you. Sorry for the sideline, but have you picked up any cool denim lately? I will tell you, the last pair of denim I got was, there's a file in 2023. So I'll tell you the story of my denim. I said anyway. It was a Naked and Famous pair that I'd been yelling at them to release for years, because I saw the prototype when I visited them in Montreal. They had a capsule collection for 2023 Black Friday. I said, save me a pair in this cut, which I've been the one yelling about this pair for a long time. Come and go. I go, hey, are they on their way? And Bezad, who used to run it with Brandon, was like, crap, we didn't hold a pair, but he found a pair for me. So those were them. Let me see if I can find a, and you guys can Google it. I think it's hard to find photos at this point. It's Matsuri, which means festival. But I've actually gone down a sneaker, I'm embarrassed to say, sneaker rabbit hole, and got like 8 pairs over the last couple of days, but I can wear them on Gutfeld and things like that. So it's a write-off for me. Okay, let's go look at the comments. Brace yourselves. So I really appreciate those of you who in my mentions, like on Twitter, who are like, I'm sorry this is happening to you, when you see the stupidity I and everybody else, once you reach a certain size of followers, have to deal with on a constant basis. It is bad. It is really, really bad. If you had $100 million windfall, what would your aquarium look like? There's something called, is it RHYS? There's this type of guitar fish which there's like, they're very, very rare at this point. There's a few left in captivity. There's one that Georgia acquired, the bowmouth guitarfish. How do I put this up on the screen? I know how to do it. I'll save the picture. I'll show you guys 1 second. What's the Latin name? Where is this thing? Why would the Georgia Aquarium not include the Latin name? There it is, Rena. Search for Google. This would be the star of the of the $100 million aquarium. The Georgia aquarium, by the way, is just absolutely superb. Save image as. Okay. Now we go here and we do this. Present image file. This is the fish. Isn't that cool? So it is a type of ray. The mouth is on the underside, but it just looks, I think they're critically endangered. Let me read about them. You're critically endangered. Let's see how, and they bred them in captivity now, so that's good. So they're trying to re-release them. But yeah, that'll be the star of the $100 million aquarium. Okay, back to this. The Tiny Tim biography you recommend was excellent. Have you considered asking Roseanne her thoughts of okay, so what Sean's referring to is on my locals group, whenever I read a book, I do a little review. And when I started co-authoring books for celebrities, my goal was, if I'm doing someone's autobiography, this has to be a book you can read about this person if you know nothing about them and don't care about them. It has to read like a novel. And one of the absolute best biographies I read was of Tiny Tim, the ukulele player. And it's like a character portrait of a freak who was famous for like 2 years, and what his life was like before, as like life was like after that. And you can imagine in terms of a narrative how interesting that would be, because he's Tiny Tim all the time, even after he very quickly becomes a has-been and a joke. How's he going to make money? And it really shows what a weirdo he was in every way. So I loved it very, very much. And what Shaw's referring to is there was an episode of Roseanne where during the credits they sometimes would have little vignettes, and he is playing his ukulele with, I think it's DJ or it's one of the kids, DJ or one of the others. And John Goodman comes out, takes his violin, just smashes it, not violin, ukulele, and leaves. And Tiny Tim goes, yeah, that happens a lot. It just pulls out another ukulele and starts playing it again. So it's a very fun little moment. I'm going to see her, I think, next in the following week. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, let's go look at these comments. I'm bracing myself because it's really going to be an S show, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. Weinstein. Here we go. The Dark Horse Pod. Videos. Okay. Let's look at these. So we've got 700 comments. I'm obviously not reading all of them, but I'm just going to go through and try to read through the dumbest ones and respond to them. Holy S, I get to say something and Michael, my hero, says it. Here's it. Yep. Is that really? Use the word hero a little lightly, sir. I wonder if Michael will see this comment, maybe on a live. I am seeing it. Okay, here's a dumb. So you know when a comment is especially dumb? Are you disappointed Lewis used a different ghostwriter's autobiography? I wasn't. I don't have time to do ghostwriting right now. So obviously Lewis needs one. That's no disrespect to Lewis. It's not easy to write a book. Okay, first, you know a comment is dumb when they use gratuitous capitalization in the middle of a sentence. So we got the comment here. Michael doing what Tucker did to Bret a couple weeks ago. Bret likes everything buttoned down and defined. Michael being an anarchist, not so much. I actually really do like things to be defined very precisely, because otherwise it's very hard to have any kind of intellectual discourse because you're talking past each other. That is completely untrue. Honestly, Heather and Bret discuss topics in their echo chamber, and it is easier to listen to Bret on his own. Okay, that might be true. I can't speak on that. Bret is so close, capital S, capital C, to stepping out of his learned behavior mythology of evolution, socialism, liberalism, equality, and stepping out of the self-imposed restrictions. So close, let's see where he takes it. Oh, okay. I was wrong. This comment is actually fair, even though the capitalizations are there for absolutely no reason. Are you going to sell autographed copies of your new book? I don't think so. And I don't think you'd want them. Here's another. So one of the things I talk about in the episode was people are like, how are you going to have conflict disputes resolved without a government? And I said, eBay does it right now. If I buy something from someone in Romania, and we have a dispute, eBay settles it. I may not always like it, but again, that's compared to what? Are you telling me in the justice system right now I'm always going to like the result? Of course not. So here's when people hear, it's amazing the internet, when people hear a noun, they just view that as their cue to start talking about that thing, even if it's of interest to absolutely no one. And here, I'm talking like friendly bits for no reason. Here's a good example of this. So eBay stole money from a bank account of mine that I did not give them access to. I still have no idea how they got the bank account number because even I didn't have it. How do you not have your bank account number? It was a side account with auto deposits set up. I did that in the local office and never looked at it again until the bank told me that an unauthorized withdrawal had taken place. When I asked eBay how they got the account info, they banned me. This was in 2010. I'm still banned. So how did they get the account info? What is the purpose of this comment? So eBay fucked you over 15 years ago. You're still salty about it. Because I mentioned eBay. Fellow YouTuber here, 200K subs, veteran perspective on news. Love to invite you on for some chat. I will check you out as soon as this is done. Thank you so much. Okay, there's some smart comments, which is good. Okay. Okay. Hard to listen to Michael constantly interrupting Bret. Okay, that's fair. I prefer for your next card. I prefer for your next podcast, Curtis Yarvin, to be done with him processed through text to speech. That cadence, bro. Oof. I like it. I like how Curtis talks. Michael is a mental masturbator. Mental? So far, these are all smart or fine. Oh, this is a good one. This is the first time I've listened. Oh, no, I misspoke. I'm going to read it out anyway. Sorry. This is the first time I've listened to Bret since his disgraceful podcast where he gaslit the audience with some guy with a fetish, and I regret going back to Dark Horse. I used to enjoy Dark Horse, but since Bret moved to that island, he has just lost any quality in his arguments. Micah runs circles around him in this. What is this fetish? I thought he was referring to me. I'm like, how did you know? This is very interesting. I don't know what that is. Okay, that's fine. Where are the dumb ones? I guess the dumb ones come in first because I'm reading all these. Malice looks like Curly. Do I look like Curly? Do I like from the Three Stooges? I don't think I do. Okay. Here's a funny one. I've disagreed with Bret on plenty of things over the years and still enjoy listening to him, but him making the point that eBay's a government is the first time I'm questioning his intelligence. You shouldn't question his intelligence. Every person who's smart that you like has some things that they haven't thought through. And if they sat down and be like, wait, what was I talking about? Yeah, let's see. If everything is private, how the hell are people supposed to pay for it when they need it? Michael is a little annoying in his arguments, laughing emoji. Do you hear this? This is what I have to deal with. If everything is private, how the hell are people supposed to pay for it when they need it? What? I don't even understand. Do they think that, like, if I call a hospital, they're running my credit card in the ambulance? What are you talking about? Sometimes the questions are so dumb and the gotchas are so dumb, I don't even know how to respond. I think you need to touch up your eyebrows. They're getting kind of old and Jewy. That's true. I'd be fascinated to hear you interview Charles Haywood. I agree with him in a few things, but I'd love your take on his thoughts. I'd put him on the list. Okay, let's see what else. Here's another great one. I don't understand the anarchism argument. Well, at least they admit it. There's every reason to believe that cops or corporations, I thought it's the cops, are poisoning and outright unaliving people right now with no consequence. I see no reason to believe they were the biggest sticks around. They would magically become less evil and more accountable. They would not become less evil inherently, but they would be more accountable because right now, if Pfizer or some other corporation is, or this is every 80s movie where there's a company that is poisoning some town. This is literally the plot of every single 80s movie has this as their plot. Where you talk about Gremlins, Star Wars, every single Yentl, every single one, this is the plot. There's a corporation and it's poisoning the town and it's paying off the politicians, and the townspeople don't know what to do. So the thing stopping corporations from having consequences is that they're in bed with the state. And the thing that encourages them to have consequences is more competition and more information being spread. Both of those are a function of free enterprise. Okay. Okay. 2K to 17 like to dislike ratio for Mr. Malice, by the way. That's pretty nice. It's very nice. We like this. Wow, Bret managed to get Michael to actually explain anarchism. Well, first of all, there's kind of a book about it. I can recommend it. It's a pretty good one. And also, when people try to come at me on Twitter, I think the cost benefit analysis of arguing with someone on Twitter is extremely low. And if it's an ideology that someone hasn't heard of, you're not going to get a good idea of it going back and forth on Twitter. I wouldn't want something explained to me on Twitter unless it's like a very specific, finite question. Oh, here's a good one. I'm 90% there with anarchism. Don't think I've ever disagreed with Malice. I do struggle in the following: copyright and patents, immigration. Yeah. Immigration, as everyone saw in January of this year, we're being flooded because of the state. It's worse. The town thinks the poisoned water is good for them. Yeah, that's the 90s movies. That's when they upgraded. Here's a great comment from Wesley. I just want the same level of scrutiny applied to pro-government attitudes as there is applied to anarchy attitudes. Yes, that's the thing. Oh, this is the one. This is the one. Oh, this is the one. Here we go. Here comes the pain. You ready? Here comes the pain. How can Michael be so blind? The only reason eBay exists, or you know what? This is so silly. This might be sarcasm. So I'm gonna read it out. You guys think for yourselves, because I can't even tell at this point. The only reason eBay exists, or the Beatles could kick Pete out, is because there are governments that can throw flash grenades into babies' cribs. And he's wrong. They can do with no consequences. There are at least minimum consequences. I don't think there are any consequences literally when they, I think it was the ATF, whoever, some SWAT type raid. There was a baby's crib. They got the wrong address, threw a flash grenade, burned a baby, and I don't think they would had any consequences. They certainly have the appropriate consequences that I think most people listening to this would have. And I don't see the connection between, well, how are the Beatles going to kick somebody out of their band if no one's throwing flash grenades at the baby's cribs? I don't get it. I don't get it. I could be wrong. I bought Dear Reader and put in the bookshelf in the Southeast Asia division of my intelligence agency. It's still there 2 years later, untouched, I'm sure. Recently binge watched your live streams. Glad to catch you live for the first time. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. I'm going to be doing these more often. They're so much fun. Malice on Red Scare where they won't acknowledge me in any way. I've tweeted at them. I've had people who are friends with them. They won't acknowledge me. I don't know what it is. No one owes me anything. I'm not taking it. I mean, it's personal, but I'm not taking it offense to it. If I'm not their cup of tea, I'm not their cup of tea. Okay, this one starts bad. So I'm haven't read through. Let's come with me. Okay. This was about the most cringeworthy podcast I've ever watched. By the way, it's almost impossible to find a comment of any kind that is valuable that uses the word cringe. It's almost impossible. I've seen it like a couple of times. I have. So I can't say never. Hopefully not useless for you. I don't know who that is. This is about the most cringeworthy podcast I've ever watched. Hopefully not useless for you. But in my humble opinion, okay, there was so much going nowhere at all that it would have been nice for you to do this privately only. Okay. I'm with Khalil Gibran. We've got to get more space between people. The maturity level of humanity doesn't support in any practical way allowing others to rule each other. Okay. Especially when we're in very large or million-strong cities and states, when living is predicated on material wealth nearly exclusively. There will be continual or at least cyclical abuse by some dominant individual group. Okay. That's fair. I don't know what he considers a cringeworthy. Here we go. We got a gotcha. We got it actually. You ready for the actually? You ready for the actually? I had said World War I was the first time America was involved in a war overseas. This is wrong. He's a century off. It's the first Barbary War in 1801 to 1805. And he's also forgetting the Spanish-American War. Yes, I should have said in Europe. That's fair. Thank you so much for that very useful correction. World War I will stand by my statement, was a very different type of American international involvement to anything that had happened previously on an enormous scale. So yes, I stand by my point, my broader point, even if I was technically incorrect, which is the worst kind of incorrect. Michael going full boomer. Okay, so at one point in the episode, we're talking about endangered species and how to conserve them. And I pointed out that a lot of the free market answers are often inadequate. And I said the only way, first of all, to protect a species is for people to care about it, or at least to care about the area that it's indigenous to. And I pointed out there's a species of fish that was being devastated because it was such culinary value. And I was like, okay, they gave it a fancy name, and I couldn't remember the fancy name. I only knew the original name, which was Patagonian toothfish. And I'm blanking, like, what's the name? What's the name? And it turned out it was Chilean sea bass. And I don't remember what it was called. I busted on my phone, and someone says, Michael going full boomer with the sea bass Google search is my favorite part of this episode. That's completely an incorrect use of the word boomer. Boomers don't search for things. They know everything. They don't Google. They will ask, they'll comment. How do you know blah, blah, blah? They don't ever look for things on their own. Here's a great comment, which is something I fight for a lot and I'm delighted to see. It's been interesting to watch people slowly realize that evil is real, not just some side effect of idiots. Yeah, for a long time, conservatives have Reagan said this, our opponents, I forget what the wording was, are sure of things, but sure things that just aren't so. And it's not that they're wrong, they're lying. Not at all leftists, but a large the press, they're lying. They're brazenly lying. They don't care that they're lying. Here's the proof that you know that they're lying. If I don't know intelligence work. Most people here don't know intelligence work. So I'm going to talk to someone who has a background in it, right? So if I'm going to platform someone and I'm going to repeat what they said and be like, oh, I trust him, he's right, and then I made a fool of by him, we have a problem because I believed in your expertise, in your information, and you made an ass out of me. So when those 51 intelligence agents said that Hunter's laptop had hallmarks of Russian disinformation, they never said what those were. And it's like, yeah, Russia's photoshopping Hunter Biden in a scarf in his underwear. What are you talking about? And when it was widely conceded it was real, it's not like they stopped talking to those 51. It's not like, you know what? Like this election, certainly marginal changes happened because of you. I trusted you. Now people don't trust me and my newspaper. I can't talk to you anymore. None of that. It was like, oh, okay. They didn't care because they don't care. Okay. Here's a great one. When challenged on anarchism, Michael said, let's take anarchism off the table. What a clown. That was one that really, I was like, oh God, it's just physically painful. So let's explain that a little bit. A lot of times people try to play, I don't want to say gotcha is insincere, but they want to present the question as if anarchism has no possible answer for this. It can't be done. And I'll say, okay, forget anarchism. How would you answer it? And immediately they have an answer. So what they're presenting as a question that's impossible is something that with 5 seconds of work, they can resolve on their own. Here's a very easy one. Okay. What if I have peanut allergies? How am I going to navigate life? You know, I can't, how am I going to know what has peanuts on the store or not? Well, what happened was companies who wanted not to be sued or who wanted customers to feel safe would say, contains peanuts. Some of that, now it's become by law, but it would say, these are my ingredients or made in this factory, because they don't want people to die because it makes them look bad. And then you realize, wait a minute, this is something that's very, not only is it resolved, it's resolved ahead of time. People who like halal or keep kosher, they don't have to have a law of if it's kosher or not. They have a little symbol. And you and I, who don't eat, people, those of us watching this, who don't keep halal or kosher, we don't notice it because we're not looking for it. But if you need it, it's there for you. So when I say take anarchism off the table, it's not because I'm like anarchism is wrong. It's because you're trying to create something as an impossibility, which is easily, this is the other one. This idea like, you know, anarchism can't prevent a foreign invasion. I'm like, okay, forget anarchism. What system of societal organization is impervious to invasion? Which one? Is monarchies have been invaded and conquered. Fascist governments invaded and conquered. Democracies invaded and conquered. Socialist governments invaded and conquered. Communist governments invaded and conquered. Every scenario, none of them are magic, bulletproof, invincible. So this claim that like, well, you can't guarantee you won't be invaded, that's true. But it's also universal. Let's see what some more chats here. What's your colossal biosciences unextinction request post direwolf? So they're trying to, well, they're not, the direwolf, I don't know if it's the extinction or I think it's on the fence. I'm very big on zoology, some of you know, and their organization is trying to use DNA like a Jurassic Park and bring species back to life. It's a lot easier to bring back to life a species that has been extinct in the last like 5,000 years because we have pretty good DNA. We have entire bodies usually. For me, the answer would obviously, I've never heard. For me, the answer would certainly be the dodo. Like, I want to see what those look like. Most boomers already learned everything they need to know by watching the propaganda box their whole lives. They get angry at new info, right? And that new info is stupid because their box is already closed and it makes no sense to them. Speaking of Red Scare, get Adam Friedland. I'm not familiar with his work. Let's read some more of these wonderful, wonderful comments. Oh, this is great. This is another one that I found was like fundamentally stupid. This was really great. You ready? Here we go. The problem with this conversation is neither deeply value the necessity of people aligning. They just can't even keep their story straight. Okay, here, this is great. Neither me or Bret deeply value the necessity of people aligning toward the virtues of values, the varieties of virtue, why this matters, how it could be accomplished. They both simply assume people are going to do the right thing. I don't know how many of you have seen any of my work. I can't imagine ever implying in any way that I assume people are ever going to do the right thing. So this is just so great. They both assume people are going to do the right thing. It's just amazing. No, let's finish the comment that if we only put the right political system in place, that allows for an economic system that isn't driven by the varieties of vice, so much will be solved. Yes, because there will be consequences. Anarchism is about responsibility. It is about people having consequences when they do the wrong thing. So yes, I do not at all think that people would tend to do the right thing. I do think that free enterprise and freedom will have costs when you do the right thing and rewards when you do costs when you do the wrong thing and rewards when you do the right thing. Kyle Rittenhouse almost went to jail for doing the right thing. Those cops who stood down had no consequences for doing the wrong thing. Those are two very extreme but obvious examples. If we're not seeking it's always the we, if we're not seeking to get people to align toward the good, true, and beautiful, all this talk amounts to useless talk for professional talkers who by and far don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, I think freedom and respecting people's boundaries and treating them with respect and not inflicting violence upon them, those are all prerequisites for good, true, and beautiful. And if there was more of that, we would be living in a paradise. If everyone didn't hurt people and respected them and respected their boundaries and values. Loved your talk with Jordan Lee Peterson. Do you love all evil people? No, not at all. All right. Anyone who says you can educate the evil out of humans is too naive to gain credibility. The more I hear the argument of anarchism, the less realistic it sounds. Where did anyone hear me say or imply that you can educate the evil out of humans? He's correct in the first part. He's correct in the first part. Anyone who says you can educate the evil out of humans is too naive to get credibility. That's true. That's absolutely true. The more I hear the argument of anarchy, the less realistic it sounds. Holy crap. It's just amazing. I'm a broken record, but you regret the Kill Tony panel. Well, it's not up to me. So yeah, I think I'm pretty good at roasting. That's to put it mildly. Okay, here's another one. Oh, Jesus Christ. The fire department cannot operate under anarchist model. Okay. Inequality of outcome in terms of putting out fires is unacceptable. I don't know what that. Sometimes people say things, and I genuinely don't even know what they're trying to say. Inequality of putting out fires is unacceptable. What does that mean, unacceptable? We have that now. If you look at California and you look at anywhere else, fires are not put out equally. It's terrible, but it's unacceptable in the sense that it sucks, but you're going to accept it. What are you going to do about it? You're going to accept. You may not like it, but you will accept it. What does he mean? I don't know what he means. All fire departments need to be held up to uniform standard. By whom? And why? I'm sorry. I think there should be more rigorous. If I had magic wand, there should be more rigorous standards for fire departments in cities where it's a lot of people in a lot of place, in a small place, population density, where a lot of people can die very, very quickly in these fire traps, as opposed to a rural area where if there's a fire, God forbid, someone in there who's going to have a tractor, whatever, the odds of a human life being lost is very low, as opposed to hundreds in seconds. All fire departments need to be held up to a uniform standard to ensure the best techniques and equipment are used to fight fires. The thing is, this is what Thomas Sowell talks about. These people live in a world without trade-offs or cost. Because if you're saying everyone should have the best cars, everyone should have the best education, everyone should have the best housing. First of all, the word best means nothing. This is commie stuff. Because if it's all the best, we're all equal. Who's paying for all this? It's literally impossible for everyone to have the best. You have to have some people having worse than others. And an area where I bet fires break out all the time, a dry, high temperature area, you're going to need more fire protection there than in like the Arctic. In other words, the expected outcome is equal for every fire, which is to get the fire under control. It's not equal. It's not equal. It's also tiresome, the same old anti-anarchist arguments. I dare say these boomers ought to read a book, one in particular. Yeah, you could say that. Okay, what else we have? I don't agree. This is another painful one. So Bret was talking about, can you name an anarchist system? And I said, sure, here's some: music, cuisine, mathematics. These are all anarchist language. These are all systems where there's no authority, and someone can say, you know what, this is the real classical French cuisine, and I'm free to agree or disagree. There's nothing they could do about it other than say he's not really making it the right French way. And for some people, that'll be a plus. And for some people, that'll be an unspeakable minus. So here's the comment. I don't agree that cuisine or music has a non-governmental structure. I cannot think of an example where either guilds and or ratings / accreditation groups don't emerge to govern the outputs. Who is the king of cuisine? Burger King. Well, he's right, Burger King. We have a Burger. He's right. He's got me. I can see defeat. The Burger King is king of burgers. And if I don't make the burgers like the Burger King wants, he will draft my children. And you know, it's interesting because the Burger King shows how bad governments are, because the Hamburglar is allowed to rob Ronald McDonald as much as he wants, and the Burger King won't put him in jail. Doesn't that show the efficiency of government? eBay could put you in jail if it was an anarchist. Who's going to stop them? I'd stop them. I'd shoot them. Or my security force would stop them. Why would they want to put me in jail? Why? I live in the suburbs. The fire department does not fight fires in the suburbs. It watches houses burn down. I can't speak on that one way or another. Maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. So here's actually a good question. So to the firehouse situation, if we live in anarchy with a for-profit fire station and my neighbor's house goes on fire and he chooses not to contract to have his fire extinguished and it spreads to my property, what then? Sure. First of all, why don't you have fire insurance? Fine. Second of all, in most of these places, fire departments are not only not for profit, they're voluntary. Like, people volunteer to have fire departments because if there's a fire down my block, it's really bad for me. It's just this is what's amazing to me, how people are like, "Oh, in anarchy, you'd be the first person killed and I'd make you my slave." And it's like, let's just walk this through. Just like I said earlier about what would have to be true for nukes to not exist. You're in my neighborhood. People see you kidnap and enslave me. They've got kids, they've got wives, they've got family members. They're like, "Oh, okay, not my problem." No. The only time things are not my problem are in cities where you are punished with imprisonment for the rest of your life for solving problems. Human beings in their spaces are very big on what's going on here. Let's fix this problem, especially when they have the numbers and especially when they're armed and they're trained in. Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia. That means is a population that knows and is practiced using their weaponry for self-defense. And the founding fathers on this one were absolutely correct. Hey, Michael, what is the best argument you've heard against anarchism? That's easy. And again, this speaks to earlier when I was talking about how it's unfair to have one question for anarchism, another question for everybody else. What do you do about the kids when people want to, like parents who want to do things to their own kids? And what I say to them is, I don't have an answer for that. What happens now? The answer is they can pretty much often get away with it. So this is a real problem in any system or society, no matter where you are. I don't have an answer. It's something I find horrible. And it's that's the thing where it's like, yeah, what do you do now? They get away with it. It's all more often than not within the family. Here, okay, this is a good. Okay, I thought it was dumb, but it's not. I don't like this. Michael, thanks for taking Bret to task for his continual subtle BS. I did not take him to task, and I don't think he has continual subtle BS. I think he's thinking things through, and sometimes he's wrong, and that's fair. These companies are not liable because of Trump's wave. Oh, actually, this makes a point. Here's one. You guys ready? Y'all ready? I'm going in. Michael is very smart, has a lot of solid points. Thank you. That's very complimentary. I do appreciate it. Unfortunately, there is no honest discussion over the minimum IQ requirements for an anarchist society and shared value system requirements. What about a farm? What about a farm? You got the farmer and his team, and you got a lot of animals. There's no IQ there, and it runs really well. There's no discussion of the reality that fear motivates authority structures in humans, and humans are naturally very fearful species. We are not naturally a very fearful species. Humans are a very curious species and a very strong species. We're not prey animals. Fight or flight, it's very rare, other than like Godzilla movies or like 9/11, where people are fleeing in mass. A lot of times when something bad's happening, especially in America, people are like, what's going on there? We're not fearful animals at all. So I disagree with that completely. It's also a bell curve. It depends on the people, the population. So I don't agree with that at all. Humans are naturally very fearful species. Thus, the vast majority of us have always, and I predict will always, demand a government-type structure. That is true. As I have that Mencken quote all the time, the average man does not want to be free, he simply wants to be safe. That's true. There is also no acknowledgement here of how society without a stable structure devolves into authoritarianism almost instantly. That's also, I think he's arguing with Bret on that point. But I don't think you need minimal IQ requirements, because one of the things I discussed in the New Right, and this is from the Machiavellians by James Burnham, is elites always emerge. And the question is, how do you have those elites in a productive manner and not in a hostile, invasive or oppressive manner? So very obvious thing is, if there's just a group of friends, there's someone's gonna be like deciding, hey, where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do? And everyone else is like fine with it. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah. My friend Jay always has good restaurant ideas. I like listening to Jay. Doesn't mean Jay gets to tax me, but in this context, he is the elite. Tim was on trigonometry. I'm assuming Tim Pool, debating warfare principles and morals in regard to power control. Best explained by Tim, not me. What is your take, and how does it influence anarchism? I don't understand what you're asking me. I don't understand what you're asking me. But I'll be on his show, we're also I'll announce on his show. No, he announced it. They're doing a Michael Malice coffee blend, which is going to be a lot of fun. An anarchist coffee blend. Okay, let's do a few more. Oh, I remember this one was trying to be complimentary, but oh, here's one. Okay, this is a different one. I'm going to get to that one in a second. Here's one. I want to do them in order. To be honest, I watched Michael Malice argue for anarchy a lot. Not once did he fail to make me question my conviction that he's wrong. Perfectly fair. Because he isn't. Oh, God damn it. It's just that governments will quickly form an anarchy. A government that's small enough to not have a group small enough not to have government will be eaten up by looting arms from the next state. Anarchy is utopian way. It also doesn't work with real humans. Well, no. Again, having a organized militia is not a government. If me and the boys from the neighborhood, every week we go to the range, we practice, we even do drills, like someone invades, we're not a government. This idea, because I think Murray Rothbard talked about this a bit. I remember, not a bit in this essay. People are so used to the idea that governments are the mechanism for providing security, they literally start to view those terms as synonymous. That therefore, someone providing security is a government. And when people say this to me, and I get this a lot, I go, if I have a bodyguard, who's the government? Who's telling whom what to do? A bouncer in a club. Is he running the club? I see many of your points on how a narco society would work. I'm curious how narco society would defend itself from foreign nations like communist or socialist attacker. There's essays about this in the Anarchist Handbook, but it would be through great force and probably targeted harm in their home countries. This is also the finale, spoiler alert, of The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Mencken, Heinlein, excuse me, Mencken. Jeez, good Lord. Okay, here's one. Dude, I'm assuming this is referring to me. Dude will never keep a wife, and any kids will lock him in a nursing home as fast as they can. Okay. One of the biggest trolls to exist. Not number one yet, Mike. It's always Mike. They really think I'm friends with them. This is what's fat. Mike. Hey, Mike. Like my friends do call me Mike, but it's just interesting to me when randos like feel the need to. Hey, Mike. You've definitely entered the top 10 since hanging out with Roseanne. I'm pretty sure if we end up back in caveman status, the tribe will eat you first. Why? Rogan and Roseanne will eat you, and the Weinsteins will take turns spinning the rotisserie attached to. They won't eat you, though, but they will wear parts of you as a necklace to keep flies and insects away. That was a good show, guys, and it's good to see different types of people can mess with each other again. That's about the only good thing coming out of this Trump 4 years. Hopefully people are learning that during this period we could still talk and get along with two different mindsets and move on and live as a country. I don't think people are learning that during these 4 years at all. At all. At all. Jesus Christ, guys, I love both of you, but this was hard to listen to. Learn zero. That might be on you. This is a great one where I saw. It's just like, good Lord. You ready? Guys ready for this one? For Pete's sake, eBay is an example of functional anarchy? Ludicrous. Everyone knows they can turn to the state for redress if eBay violates the terms of agreement or commits some breach or tort, whatever. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows this. Can you imagine having an issue with Amazon or eBay or Google or any Facebook and be like, it's fine. If they do something I don't like, I can sue them. What? Can you with this? It's fine. I'll just sue eBay. It's just where's my wallet? I don't know. Oh, I got here on my checkbook. It's gonna write check to lawyers. eBay. It's write off. I'll just sue eBay. Just sue eBay. I know this. Would you consider having Dave Green, the distributist, on your podcast? He's an interesting guy who shifted from liberal to Catholic reactionary, and I think you two would have a great talk. There's a guy in Britain whose show I did, and I absolutely adored, and then I forgot his name, and I don't remember if it was the distributist or something else, and I don't think it was the distributist. And then later somebody asked me about him, and I'm like, I don't know who that is, and I felt stupid because I realized who they were talking about. I hate Chesterton. I hate it. I also hate the contemporary idea because America, it's not Americans' fault, but like people really think everything in the world, everything can be reduced to Republican or Democrat. And that also that contemporary Republicans and Democrats have always been the same way. And when you try to tell them that socialism was introduced to America through religion back in the 1800s, they sound crazy. You sound crazy to them because socialism is left, religion is like Republicans. So that's not even possible. It's ridiculous. So yeah, that was just people don't know. I remember I was arguing with I think she's out of Minnesota, some opinion columnist, just some dumb shit leb lady, and just arguing with her. She's had fairly well known. I don't remember her name, and she goes, "Well, I'm both a Christian and a socialist. Ever thought you something like you, but you never saw something like me before?" I'm like, this was the norm. This was the cross. William Jennings Bryan was yelling about the cross of gold. And he was religious, biblical literalist. He was on the trial during the Snopes evolution trial. What do you dumb fat broad? You don't know your own history, and you think you're so innovative. Oh, okay. Now I'm triggered. I am. You got me. People, this is a great one. Oh, okay. This is another same simpleton. People starving in third world countries Certainly don't give a damn about Michael's ethically farmed limitations on the corrupt consumption of Chilean sea bass, for that matter. Not at all convincing. Okay. That's why you buy the area, and you have they have this right now in Africa. Bushmeat's a problem in Africa where natives are just killing these endangered species just for meat. So what happens is they make wildlife preserves, and if anyone trespasses, they're shot. So I don't expect the what was the term to use? I don't expect the starving people to care about the ethical farming. I expect the starving people to care about the bullets. This inversion you're pointing about the bodyguard is what we have with the Pentagon who run politicians. Yes, yes, yes. Shows that the government is worse, possibly more prone to accountability. Yes, that's very true. It's very it's funny. Everyone, close to everyone, if you ask them who was in control, J. Edgar Hoover or the presidents, like, did J. Edgar Hoover have the power to make presidents do what he wanted? Yes. So who's running the government? The president. All right. This is great. Same retard. Someone doesn't pay for private insurance and his house catches fire. No one comes to put it out. Why is no one? It's just, why is no one? I love the idea that everyone listening to this, right? If there's a fire in your neighborhood and someone knocks on your door, right? You see it's just a normal person. It's not a rapist. And they're like, hey, can I please use your faucet? Nah, I just, maybe, yes, fine. I like the smell of smoke in my lungs. What are you talking about? No one comes to put it out, then it burns the neighbors, then the next house. I never find Mike's pitch for anarchy the least bit convincing. Sounds almost utopian. It's just, these people live in a world where I you know what? It's more of it's a confession, because there's a lot of people when they see a problem, they're just like, oh, this happened to me. I discussed this on Rogan. I was eating at this deli in Manhattan, and for the first time in my life, I was choking on food. I couldn't tell which pipe it went down, but it was a bad one. And I was proud of myself. I kept calm. And my brain said, you need to look at this right now. Your life is in danger. Not that it's like there's a possibility. It's not high, but this is something that has to. Okay, so I stood up and I'm like, shit. And I know try to push it down and push it up. And it's very scary if this ever happens to you. And your brain's going a mile a minute, but I was keeping myself calm. And there was a table of tourists next to me. We're in a balcony. And I went up to them and I did the international sign of choking. I looked them in the eye, choking. And they're sitting and I'm standing, choking. And just they looked. There was no one home. And then I kind of pushed myself and like threw it up a little bit. And it was intense. And I still have a little bit of PTSD when I'm eating steak. So I cut it really small because I still remember that. And they said, oh, you really need to like chew your food better when you swallow. I go, yeah, I'm aware. But you are also aware that when someone is doing this, that is the international sign of choking. And the response, at the very least, it's like, why is this crazy person looming over me, doing this with his hand? Is he trying to threaten me? There was no one. It was a very scary moment. I believe the UK YouTuber you love is Academic Agent. That is correct. Thank you so much. Yes, that is exactly correct. Nima Parvini sounds Jewish. Okay, let's look at this. I don't. Sometimes I can't even read them because I don't understand. Here's great. Oh, here's another little gotcha. I want Fauci held accountable. I don't want a strong executive. Pick one. Why do you need a strong executive to hold people accountable? I don't understand what he's trying to say. I don't think accountability is only through the state. Oh, here we go. Here's a boomer. You know how someone's a boomer? Because they capitalize words for no reason mid-sentence. You ready for this one? There is no private no one private or capitalized alternative to the fire department. No. Private profit interests are not the answer to anything in the public realm. Making it so only those who can prove ability to pay before answers their call of duty, their call is cruelty. That is the only thing that profit motive makes better. Needless cruelty for those who have to laugh in the face of those who don't. Great. It's so boring when Michael holds forth on his libertarian dogma. So boring. Okay. This is another really stupid one. I get this a lot, but it's a stupid one that is common. Michael's hobby horse pro-anarchy argument is frustrating because it is unresolvable. Pretty much solely for the reason he argued against Bret being unfavorable to socialism. We will never have the required comparable counterfactual to prove either place. It's the case. It's a merry-go-round argument. I'm beginning to believe this is largely what appeals to malice, mass control, and all. No. As I said to Bret earlier, anarchism is not a location; it is a relationship. And I said this to Bret earlier in the episode. I said, look, let's suppose you like weed, and we're in some country where weed is illegal, Singapore, and we're at a party, and someone pulls out a joint and says, "Do you want some?" Now you might wonder what the odds to get caught. How stringent are the consequences going to be? Are you trying to set me up? Whatever. At no point in your head you're like, well, it's against the law here in Singapore, so therefore I shouldn't do it, because you don't care what the government in Singapore says. You just wonder, am I going to have consequences? That's where anarchy is, right there. You just lived it. People say that anarchy always gives way to government because of conquering force. If anarchy is based on voluntary agreements, yes, and government is just agreements you're born into, there's a generational issue. Government is not just agreements you're born into, though. It's this. So I talk about this at length not at length. I talk about this in the Anarchist Handbook. The social contract is just does not fit any concept of contract in any sense. It's just bizarre. Oh, this is a fair one. I stopped listening to Michael Mouse because it's painfully obvious how little he thinks of his audience. In his head, 90% of the population are oafs, and he's part of the meritocratic elite. I don't think I'm part of the elite, to be honest. I don't see myself having much social clout in terms of an elite. Like, I can't make people go to jail. I can't stop wars. I can't make the state $1 smaller despite my best attempts. Bret, on the other hand, has nothing but sympathy and goodwill for his listeners. I'm sorry, but I don't think it's 95%, but yes, a huge percent of the population are oafs. Yes, I completely think this. And I have seen no data to the contrary. Okay, I think we are almost wrapped. I think we're almost wrapped, yeah. Okay, so it wasn't as bad as I had. Oh, here's another one, Mikey. Whenever you see the word Mikey, you know a real quality is going to follow. Mikey is so naive. Every example he gives is simply making a new government, not just based on populism. He gives bank enforcement as one, government by chefs, and government by musician. I don't know what that means. Every king who founded a kingdom was a warlord, so Mikey's right about that. A king is inherently dependent upon support of the population, so much more responsive citizens than any democracy we've seen. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. Here's a great one. Michael is really not completely right in the head. Possibly true. His arguments are all on or all off. The reason a completely private fire department bench was replaced by public fire departments was because not everyone purchased a private fire contract. And the house owner that did not pay was connected or close to other houses, and the entire town could and did burn down. Unlike now, where towns don't ever burn down, right? Doesn't happen now. Michael's not as smart as he thinks he is possible. I don't know how Bret can put up with him. I had to stop watching. Mike has no concept of nuance or fine shades of difference. Okay. Everyone give Michael money to Michael so we get him to the elite. I don't think that's how it works. What are your thoughts on the feud between Dave Smith and James Lindsay? It makes me very, very sad. I'm not going to lie. Very, very sad. Also, we have Anthony Cumia back on the show. No reason why I wouldn't. You, sir, are a gift. Been watching you inch Brett closer to understand that government's not merely the presence of rules, but rather monopoly, legitimate force is awesome. Stay tuned until Tuesday, because it's going to drop on Wednesday. I'm recording with Brett on Tuesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I certainly did. We'll be doing these more frequently, and I will talk to you all soon if you have no more questions. So have a great weekend. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me.